There's a heartbeat louder than thunder. Revolution is in the air. There's a heartbeat deep inside our mother. Are you too cool to care?
You've got it.
Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you in part by Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola Classic. Can't beat the real thing.
By Cook Inlet Region Incorporated, an Alaska Native corporation promoting economic and social progress for people throughout the state. By the generous support of the Alaska Native Health Board. By the Alaska Commercial Company, Alaska's leading retailer of food, family apparel, and general Alaska merchandise since 1867. And Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you by the Public Information Office of the North Slope Borough. Hello and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. I'm Jeannie Green, bringing you Native news across the North. Thank you so much for joining me. On today's program, we travel to Southeast Alaska, to the village of Kasaan, and on up to Point Lay, where compliments of the North Slope Borough, they sent us a video on the management of the beluga whale. Then on down to southwestern Alaska to the Yupik village of Tununak, where we learn about the healing properties of a local plant. Plus more villages and more news around the state. This 4th of July weekend is coming up, so we'll be letting you know about all the potlatches and powwows going on. All that plus much more, but first, here's Gary Fife with Native news across the nation.
This is Native News Across the Nation. I'm Gary Fife. U.S. Attorney Janet Reno has announced the first in a series of steps the Clinton administration will be taking in response to the concerns of tribal leaders from across the nation. Reno's action is a follow-up to the National American Indian Listening Conference last month in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She's emphasizing the need to reevaluate and reinforce law enforcement services on reservations, calling it a priority. In that plan, Reno has directed U.S. attorneys to centralize responsibility for Native-related law enforcement issues, to begin training programs designed to improve the skills of tribal police departments, have U.S. attorneys learn more about Native American law, and develop ways for federal officers to work with tribal social workers to address the problems of domestic violence and child sex abuse. Finally, Reno says the Justice Department has nearly completed a department-wide gaming plan to help the tribal gaming industry to regulate itself. Critics of tribally owned and operated gambling enterprises have again raised their voices on Capitol Hill. During discussions about changes to the Federal Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, state officials and governors declared they need more authority to control gaming within their state, and that includes tribal gaming halls. The leadership of the Senate Indian Affairs Committee has come up with a proposal that says tribal gaming should come under guidelines more strict than regulations on other non-native gaming ventures. Their plan calls for the rights of states to refuse to allow high-stakes gambling. Supporters of tribal gaming says it's an attack on tribal sovereignty and that tribal gaming has provided an economic answer to some of the most pressing problems facing reservation governments. A report commissioned by the Western Shoshone Tribe of Nevada says the U.S. government has ignored potentially significant radiation exposure to their tribe since the 1950s. News from Indian Country reports that Diana Quigley, a Massachusetts childhood cancer researcher, conducted the study for the Nevada tribe. Her findings say the government failed to go far enough when it studied the effects of nuclear weapons testing on the local agriculture, leaving out crops such as pine nuts, which comprise a large part of the traditional diet of the Shoshones. The report comes up short of blaming anyone's cancer or leukemia on the nuclear weapons testing program, but says they can find out if tribal members are at risk. The famed Institute for American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico, finally has a new president. Dr. Perry Horse, a member of the Kiowa tribe of Oklahoma, has been chosen to take over the leadership of the school. Horst is a longtime Native educator working with community college programs, and he helped develop the American Indian Higher Education Consortium. Horst says his philosophy in assuming the new post is that art is another way of defining ourselves, not only aesthetically, but in terms of how we view the world. The Institute had been without a president since the resignation of Catherine Tiarina Harris, a Comanche, last year. Alaska natives and other Anchorage residents paid their last respects to a man known as a living American treasure. King Island elder Paul Tialana passed away last weekend, and at a mass of Christian burial, the 73-year-old bearer of Eskimo culture and tradition was remembered. Tialana was renowned as one who remembered life on the windswept island that was home to his community and people. His work as a carver and artist brought him international recognition, and as a living repository of King Island culture, he was often called on by historians, scientists, curators, and researchers to share the fast disappearing culture of his people. Tialana received one of the first National Heritage Fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts in 1984. Anchorage's Holy Family Cathedral was packed as family, friends, and acquaintances attended the memorial service presided over by Anchorage Archbishop Francis Hurley. This is Native News Across the Nation. For Heartbeat Alaska, I'm Gary Fife.
Thanks, Gary. Stick around now, don't go away. We'll be letting you know all the potlatches and potlucks and all the goings on this 4th of July weekend, plus more news from across the state and the nation right after these messages.
Heartbeat Alaska. Yeah.
Аккаллаараартлхит ангнираркаавиаақу тамлхмитахуам таиунаақлхатсиқилиқнақаақанунаамхникаяаларту таулукуумааллеркаамгнунниит нун икааюутстангтортханерат нуннаитниуи таллрита тунгиинун qatigинаррукикааюллеркаит нунаанириуллерит нун наллунерискунгаанқаркуу тассиигаалангорамак икааюриулеамик қаяагааоқи килитнаарувит аккалларвит хуаллу 800-770-0138 таамун.
We have always felt in harmony with the land.
Takome, tapiwa, the skumok, ta tapiachu, kenok honestje, matapiwa, makaspumos, akum.
Help the Soil Conservation Service help our earth. Call us today. We owe it to our children.
Welcome back. Let's travel to beautiful Southeast Alaska, where Annette Thompson lives. She sent me this video inviting us into her village of Kasaan.
This is the only way you can get into Kasaan is by a seaplane. Otherwise, you have to take your skiff and go over to Hollis and catch the ferry.
Annette Thompson is a Tlingit woman who lives in the Haida community of Kasaan, Alaska. 35 people total live in Kasaan, a village on the southern tip of Prince of Wales Island.
Kasaan was originally a Tlingit territory, which was settled by the Haida people during the early 1700s. Kasaan had derived its name from Kasaan, which means pretty town. The current location of Kasaan was established in 1892 with the construction of a salmon packing plant 7 miles north of the existing village that grew around the cannery became known as Kasaan after the post office was established in 1900. The earlier site became Old Kasaan and became part of Old Kasaan National Monument in 1916. Many ornate totem poles were moved from Old to New Kasaan in 1938. The National Monument status was abolished in 1955 And the old village site is now part of the old Kasaan Village Historical Area. We have old and new homes in Kasaan. This is the last one. It's on our way into the park to the Chief Sunny Hat family home, and it's a long house. We will take you through the trails up to the house. These are some of the berries that we have here in Kasaan, and they are only found here in Kasaan. Are the service berries, which is this larger tree. We've got salmon berries, which are the lower bushes below the service berry tree. We've got plums, elderberries, which we make jelly out of, thimbleberries, which we also make jam and jelly from. So we have many berries that we can use for our subsistence, and they should be ready to be picked in July. In the summertime, there's a culture class from the University of Alaska in Ketchikan. They come out and spend a week with us, and they gather berries, clams, seaweed, fish, and they prepare it, and we all get together for a potlatch in the longhouse. The community all shares in with the culture class. This is the brown bear totem. You will move along to the killer whale totem. This totem has many of the animals: the beaver, the bear, the wolf, the sun, the frog. These are the 3 original house posts built when the longhouse was built in the early 1800s, and they're in great shape. It's not too many that you find in such good shape as these. And this is where we have the potlatches with the cultural classes in the summer. It lasts for about 7 days. And there's storytelling, there's dancing, there's just sharing of experiences with the elders. This is Chief Sunny Hat's family house, and we are welcoming you from the city of Kasaan, and hope you will return and visit us one day. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette Thompson, for sharing your village with us. If you're a viewer and we have yet to visit your village, get your camcorder out. Give me a call, whether you live in Canada or Greenland or the Russian Far East, across Alaska, or soon to be on any of the reservations in the lower 48. Please get out your camcorder, give me a call, and we will feature your village. It's so much fun to find out how different people live, isn't it? Let's find out how they live in Tununak, Alaska. It's a Yupik village where some of the local plants have healing properties. Tununak, Alaska is located on Nelson Island, an island just off the main landmass in southwestern Alaska. Tununak has a population of about 375 people. It's a Yupik village. This area of Alaska has no trees, but the earth is rich in berries and other gifts, such as chaithblok or stinkweed.
Wani inuunak kulutushit akawani jani imitawa mai awani sang sumni kan jai su tai kasum su ta saya na namni ilumun pitula pikan makut mai.
Martha Flynn is a resident of Tununak. She depends on medications from the earth, specifically from a plant called stinkweed. The Yupik people used to take care of themselves strictly by collecting plants and using what the earth gave them. Today, they still do it. Chaithluk, or stinkweed, stands about 2 feet tall. It's found on the tundra and gets its name from its strong odor. The stinkweed is collected and put away for later use. When it's needed for medications, for example, arthritis or coughs or a sore throat or a body ache, the stinkweed is placed in a cooking pot with plenty of water to boil for at least 15 minutes. After the boiling water is cooled down, they pour in the stinkweed into the jars for medications. Martha only takes 2 tablespoons at a time, treating it like any other medication.
In the morning, and then before lunch, when I forgot it, even after lunch I did that. Then at dinner time, I have my dinner. Then just before go to bed, I just drink 2 tablespoons like that. Then sometimes we need my arthritis, when it's aching, like I did, makes me like sick, I have to take Chaithluk and then put it in a cloth, even a little bit with him. Then I put him somewhere on and tied him up.
Another traditional use for the medicinal stinkweed is to use it in the steam bath. The weed is bundled up, then whipped gently against the body, allowing the medicinal properties to permeate the hot air and into the skin. How does stinkweed taste? Well, remember, it's medicine. Some compare it to as strong as fresh lemon, but it does the job. Thank you, Roseanne, for your help on that story, and especially thank you, Martha Flynn from Tununak. We'll be back with more villages and more news right after these messages.
Most fatal home fires occur at night while people are sleeping. Smoke detectors are essential to give you the chance to escape. To be effective, they must be properly placed and maintained. Place smoke detectors on each level of your home and in each sleeping area. Follow the manufacturer's directions for installation, testing, and maintenance. Remember, a smoke detector is your first line of defense in a fire.
Inu pengisa alaskam koverigat inu nernek nunakirani inu it pilwilingarote mangak takun inu nernek sikarnak sivlune sikarnai lipayaklugo savalrotiningarot inung nun pilwilingaroanon savakpata ilisarumakpata piraknigugalwarle ilismapsao kuven kokuraklugo una 800-770-0138.
Before we move on, I'd like to welcome a new station, SKC Public TV on the Flathead Reservation in Pablo, Montana. It's the Salish Kootenai College television station. We welcome them. They'll be watching Heartbeat Alaska beginning with this program, and we hope to get some news from the Flathead Indian Reservation in northern Montana. Let's travel now to a northern Alaskan village, Point Lay, where they're managing the beluga whales.
Hurry up, stand up and run! Run!
On a sunny 4th of July in Point Lay, on Alaska's North Slope, Inupiat Eskimo villagers enjoy an old-fashioned family holiday, just like the residents of small towns across the United States. The celebration of this American holiday includes hot dogs and hamburgers, potato salad, and soda pop. But these foods are not native to this land. There is a vastly older tradition along the Arctic coast, the subsistence way of life. By adapting to some of the world's harshest environments, the native people have thrived here for thousands of years. Everything needed for survival and to support a vibrant culture comes from the land and sea. And although the last century has brought many changes to the Arctic villages, ties to the land and sea remain strong. Modern villagers consider traditional hunting activity essential to the survival of the Inupiat culture. In addition, the lack of opportunities for all to earn a steady income means that many villagers must still rely on traditional subsistence resources to feed their families. Caribou, waterfowl, fish, seals, walruses, and whales keep the villagers and their ancient culture alive. As they celebrate July 4th, Point Lay villagers are waiting for the annual arrival of the animal, which makes up more than 60% of their subsistence diet, the beluga whale. The beluga whale has provided a staple food source in the Arctic for centuries. Food derived from the beluga is important to villages from Cook Inlet in the south-central Alaska to Tuktoyaktuk in the Inuvialuit region of Canada. In recent years, subsistence hunters and biologists have become concerned as modernization and other changes occur that may affect the beluga's environment. Hunters are worried that industrial development and boat traffic on coastal migration routes may be impacting traditional beluga habitat. They are also concerned about increasing interest in regulation of the beluga whale harvest expressed by international groups that possess little knowledge of the region and culture. For these reasons, representatives of beluga hunting villages and management agencies joined in 1988 to form the Alaska and Inuvialuit Beluga Whale Committee. Through cooperative management with local, state, and federal governments, the Beluga Whale Committee will promote conservation of beluga whales in their habitat and preservation of traditional beluga hunting. The committee has drafted a 7-part management plan to meet these goals. The committee hopes successful implementation of this plan will achieve its goals. For management, full utilization and preservation of the beluga whale, with participation of local people whose knowledge of this animal and dependence upon it are greatest. The beluga hunt is a community affair. Hunters work in groups to make sure that the hunt is conducted safely, efficiently, and in a non-wasteful manner. Once taken, the animals are towed to the beach near the village, where they are divided for distribution. 350. In Point Lay, the hunters work with a team of North Slope water biologists to take measurements and samples. The data will be used to plan future management decisions. The belugas are used as completely as possible. Every villager who is able helps. The food is distributed throughout the community. There is a growing concern worldwide about the preservation of small whales. Nowhere is that concern greater than among the people who live closest to them. The people of the Arctic coast depend upon traditional hunting activity for their cultural survival. They feel it is important for regulatory groups to work closely with their communities to ensure healthy whale populations are maintained for future generations.
much for joining me on another Heartbeat Alaska. This is a really fun time of year. There are gatherings all over the state. In Minto, Alaska, they're having their first traditional powwow. That's July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and they're inviting everyone to come. People from Canada, from Dease Lake, from Alberta and the Yukon area, as well as British Columbia, will be joining them, so make sure that we Alaskans join them as well. In Seward, the Katukachuk Native Corporation will be having their second annual sobriety potlatch. That's July 17th and 18th. If you're in the area, please make sure that you attend that and give those people support. In Fairbanks, a Get Out to Vote potlatch is being held. Well, this is a picnic, and this is going to be held July 10th at Groden Park with softball games and hot dogs and meeting the candidates, which we all have to do. It's very important for Alaska Natives to get out and vote. And another Seward note, Tony Deere was recently elected Seward's Teen of the Year by the local Elks organization there. Congratulations, Tony. If you have any potlatches or powwows coming up, give me a call at area code 907-272-8111. I'm Jeannie Green. Send in your videos and I'll see you next week.